From meeting the king of pop to owning the Hotel California, our next guest has seen and done a lot of things. Rick Butler, born and raised in small town Nova Scotia, has a new book out. It's called The Mountie in the House. Now, the book is made up of a collection of short stories based on Butler's upbringing in Nova Scotia with his Mountie father, to his experiences as a Hollywood screenplay writer and hotel owner, and even a memorable meeting with the one and only Michael Jackson. And Rick joins us in studio live on this Thursday morning. Good morning, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Paul.
We appreciate your time.
This is my first electronic interview, so I'm delighted to be on Global.
This is the start of the big book launch tour. We're happy to have you. What inspired you to write this book, The Mountie in the House?
Well, it's my Nova Scotia DNA. You know, I lived in Nova Scotia for about half my life, but I've carried Nova Scotia inside me for all my life.
What does it mean to have what is in Nova Scotia DNA?
Well, there are various things. There's a humor. There's a sense of humor. There are some unforgettable characters. There's growing up with a dad who was in the RCMP and took great pride in that. And we kind of moved ourselves around from Truro to New Glasgow to Sherbrooke, and then eventually University in Halifax.
Right.
And the RCMP are highly respected. So, you know, it kind of meant in a way they cut you more slack in those small towns when your dad was a Mountie.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, definitely. It was very convenient.
How many of the 14 stories have to do with the RCMP? And especially the Mountie in the House. What was that like?
The story The Mountie in the House is the story of a young man, a young boy really, who's 11 years old, who watches his father in Nova Scotia, in a small town, fight for justice in a small town.
Right.
And you know, small towns have problems and crimes just as large as the biggest cities.
Sure they do, yeah.
They're just amplified, and that's what that's about. It's about this boy watching his dad fight for justice and learning about humanity, or the lack of humanity at times.
Right. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that one of the stories is called Moonwalking with Michael. Now, you've had a very fortunate career out in Hollywood to meet some big wigs, and you met Michael Jackson. Can you tell me about that meeting with the King of Pop?
Well, I moved from Canada to Los Angeles 25 years ago to write. One of the ideas that I had at the time involved a story for a pop star who wanted an average life.
Yeah.
He wanted anonymity. And I thought, well, Michael might like this. And I asked my agent, could you run this by him through his production company? And it turns out Michael Jackson's great unfulfilled dream was to be a movie star, like his father-in-law Elvis.
Right.
And so my agent contacted Michael's office at Columbia Pictures, where he had a movie production office. And sure enough, he liked the idea and asked to meet with the writer. And that's how it began.
So what was Michael like as a person? Everybody wants to know.
Well, the first surprise, actually, on meeting him, I met him at his office at Columbia Pictures.
Yeah.
I'm 6'1". Michael was taller.
Wow.
That was a surprise. Now, he was wearing a bowler hat and he was wearing boots, but he'd be over 6 feet. The other thing about him, a very friendly person who looked you in the eye, and you were there for a reason. In this particular case, it was to tell him this story, which took about 45 minutes to go through the entire story. But it was a kick.
Yeah, for sure. That story is called Moonwalking with Michael.
Yes.
You've got a bunch of other stories in here. Hollywood Confidential, The Trouble with Cliff, One Room Honeymoon. One Room Honeymoon, you're a hotel owner. You own the Hotel California?
Yes, I do.
The owner of the Hotel California as well.
Correct.
Unbelievable stuff. Some of these stories, fact or fiction?
Well, if you really like the stories, I can say they're factual.
Okay.
But if there's
a look at the Hotel California, the actual one.
If there's something in, that's the Hotel California, Santa Monica, yes. If there's something in the stories that bother you, oh, well, then they're fictional, of course.
Exactly.
So it depends. As a Nova Scotian, you know, you learn to do two things growing up and becoming an adult, becoming a man in Nova Scotia. You learn to drink beer.
Yep.
And if you're wide awake, you learn to save your money, because you never know when a rainy day is going to arrive, like today.
Exactly.
You're going to save your money. So I saved what I made from screenwriting and I bought a small hotel in Santa Monica with a famous name. And that was just as the internet was happening, Paul.
Yep.
Believe it or not, 15 years ago, remember?
Yep.
The internet was not really a force. So I put that hotel on the internet, and away it went.
Yep.
And I still have it to this day. And then I actually bought a second one in San Francisco.
Unbelievable.
The Hotel California.
I said it earlier, you may be the most interesting man in the world. Thanks very much for coming in to talk to us about your book, Rick.
Well, the most interesting man in the world was Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Of course, he's not with us anymore.
He is not, but he does have a story to tell, much like you tell about him in this one, Moonwalking with Michael, included in this book. Here's how you can talk to Rick about this book, The Mountie in the House. Tomorrow at noon, Rick will be at the Halifax Public Library at 5381 Spring Garden Road doing a book launch there, and also on Sunday at 7 p.m. at the Economy Shoe Shop downtown Halifax. The Mountie in the House is in bookstores now. The Bookmark downtown, you can get it there, and also online on Amazon.ca.